How hard and expensive is it to play Yu-Gi-Oh! As a complete beginner? That is what I want to find out in this series. In this episode I'm going to learn the rules and play some duels with my friends and family. This is the official 2-player starter kit. I found this randomly and thought I could use this to get my friends and family who are into Yu-Gi-Oh! But don't really know the rules or have not played in a decade back into Yu-Gi-Oh! That is the reason why I bought the German version of this. Because I am German and live in Germany. For the future I will buy all my cards in English because I also play and consume online Yu-Gi-Oh! In English. This is the first official Yu-Gi-Oh! Product that I personally paid for. I have never bought anything in Duel Links or Master Duel. Every physical Yu-Gi-Oh! Product I ever owned were in primary school. My cousin gifted me my only Yu-Gi-Oh! Cards and my mother bought me GX TechFox Evolution for the PS2. So this is quite special, also because these are the first Yu-Gi-Oh! Cards I've seen since primary school. Here's my unboxing and first reaction. I've never seen this card in my life. I love ultra rare Xyz cards. I think they look so slick, but I've never seen this card in my life before. But yeah, this was almost 20 euros. The price conversion will be on screen. I will give a total of all the costs at the end of each episode so you can follow along and see how much everything costs. In addition to the cards, I bought sleeves and I will not count the first packs of sleeves that I bought. Partially because I got a 5 euro discount on the website and the sleeves themselves were only 9 euros, but also because I bought them in the wrong size. These seem to be very large. Yeah, these are like way too large. Then we have 200 of these perfect fit sleeves. These should be perfect fitting. These are not really perfect fitting. I thought this would be perfect fit. Man, I bought the wrong sleeves, I guess. So because I bought 200 of the perfect size and 300 of the regular ones, this set me back 9 euros that I will not count towards the total. But what I will count towards the total is the 7 euro I paid for these Dragon Shield perfect fit sealable sleeves. I am a big fan of these and I have sleeved all of the cards from the starter kit with these. And I will sleeve all of the cards that I will play with going forward with these. You can see here looking at Zeus. These look and feel amazing. I really feel like the cards are protected from basically everything that's not actual abuse. But after playing with these decks a few times, I've noticed that they gather up a lot of finger smudge. I don't know if you can see this here. This not only looks disgusting, but it also makes the cards really sticky, which is very annoying. So after using these cards for a bunch of duels, I decided to buy these transparent regular sleeves as well. These cost 12 euros for 150 of them, so I only need to use half of them for the set. I chose the transparent ones because I feel like the starter kit has to have the regular cards visible for the real feel. So I re-sleeved all of the cards by pulling them out of the inner sleeves, putting them back into new inner sleeves, and then putting the sleeved cards into regular sleeves. Holy shit, I have to re-sleeve them now. As you can see, the cards are way thicker when double sleeving them with the Titan Shield sleeves. I would not recommend double sleeving if you want to use Titan Shield sleeves. For my main deck going forward, I am going to buy some Dragon Shield sleeves, and Dragon Shield claims that double sleeving with Dragon Shield inner sleeves and then Dragon Shield regular sleeves should work without a problem. To save on some money, I tried washing the inner sleeves with water and soap and leaving them to air dry. This didn't work out at all. They did not want to dry on the inside, not with air, nor with a hairdryer, nor with toilet paper. You can see the water in the corners here. Also, after mostly drying, they looked worse than before, so I just threw them away. This is 7 euros down the drain, but you live and you learn. I will not count that towards the total, by the way. Anyway, I've played through the scripted duels 3 times now, and I've played a few duels afterwards with the same deck. I don't want to spoil the entire comic, but I will quickly explain what rules and concepts the comic covers and what it skips over. The comic explained the basic rules like 800 life points, you win when the opponent's life points reach 0, you draw 5 cards at the beginning, etc. Since this is a scripted duel, player X always starts, but the comic takes time to state that you would normally randomly choose who starts. Then the comic proceeds by explaining everything listed on a monster card, like type, attribute, level, etc., how normal summoning works with tributing, and what attack and defense positions are. The comic also takes time to explain that you don't draw in turn 1 and how this is more balanced since starting the duel is an inherent advantage. The comic then takes a lot of time to explain every rule regarding battling, how you can freely choose with monster fights which, what states there are after a battle. It even shows this using a cheat sheet that is also printed on the last page. They really thought this through, and the cheat sheet especially helped a lot of my friends and family understand every scenario of a battle. Then they proceed to explain spells, traps and flip effect monsters. They also take time to explain exactly when you can change positions of monsters, which was one of the things that even I did not understand fully, so this helped a lot. A really great part of this comic is that they will regularly add pictures of how the board should look, and on the first time doing this, this really helped to signal to us that we skipped or misunderstood something ending and had to reread it. Next up, there's a simple cheat sheet for all the phases and for the different types of spells and traps, although they skip ritual spells, field spells and counter traps entirely, which I think is quite sad, mainly for the counter traps. I think they should explain spell speed at the end of the comic, and they should have done it with counter traps, but they never mention spell speed in this comic. Next up, they quickly explain quick spells, tokens and inherent summons, short injection. They never use any of the keywords that I use to describe those topics, unless it's an official keyword like tokens, which I think is not as helpful as it would be would they use the community keywords, like inherent summons for example. Next up, they explain what a replay is, and then they take over 6 pages to explain the extra deck, Xyz and synchro summoning. Every single time, this was the part where they almost lost my friends and family, because they would take like 15 minutes fully reading all of the 8 extra deck monsters, fail to understand most of them, and get overwhelmed and slightly frustrated. If you are the more experienced player, it helps to tell them to quickly skim over all of the cards, but not get too hung up for now, since the comic will explain about half of them and go through summoning and using them. So player S synchro summons and player X Xyz summons afterwards. Both players get to use their effects, and player S gets to use a hand trap afterwards as well. After this turn, they explain the weird ruling with Call of the Haunted, where the trap stays on the field forever if the card it brought back gets used as material for Xyz summoning. This is a very weird ruling that I did not fully understand even after reading it in a comic, but they even use this for their combo, since both players summon their respective main deck boss monsters, Visa, Starfrost and Eldritch. In the following turns, both players combo into their extra deck boss monsters, Manalium Primeheart and Zeus, and they end the duel with a tactically interesting play, crashing Primeheart into Zeus, forcing Zeus to wipe the board, before using Fissure to destroy Zeus as well, leaving an empty board, almost equal life points and 1 card in each hand. That is where the comic gives the steering wheel back to the players to finish the duel, since player X has to shuffle the deck for one of the effects to resolve. Player S does not have to shuffle the deck and has a deterministic end to the duel. At the end, it lists the deck building restrictions and reprints the phase and battling cheat sheets. So in total, this was a lot of fun. The comic was not perfect though. We had to Google a few interactions, and since Google is not very helpful for that, I set up Edo Pro and played through some of these interactions to test them. I recommend Wikipedia under the page card ruling for quickly looking up commonly asked questions. But this page, for example, is missing the ruling regarding Xyz material and Call of the Haunted specifically. The part of looking weird rulings up was not great and dragged out the duration of the duel. It took almost 2 hours to play through the scripted duel for the first time. Afterwards we played each other with the same decks for like 2 or 3 hours, and it was a lot of fun. Every other time with other people I would give a TLDR of what is happening, and because of that, and because I already looked up all of the weird rulings, the next duels went by way quicker. They took like slightly less than 1 hour. I would have liked them to explain a bit more though, mainly spell speed, link summoning and problem solving card text, since these are big parts of the modern game, but I am fine that they did not explain fusion summoning and ritual summoning, since these two are pretty self-explanatory, and I am fine with them skipping pendulum summons, mainly because they are very complicated and also rarely used. If you want to learn about spell speed and problem solving card text, you can go to the official Konami website and look the tutorial up there. These are explained beautifully in most languages, and I will just recommend that. I have read that and I think these are explained very well. These decks were better than I expected. As you can see, there are a lot of vanilla monsters, primarily to explain summoning. Also, there's no archetype or big engine. There isn't even any duplicate card except for one, and that's Manalium Fearless. Manalium Fearless is the only duplicate card. This is twice in the deck. Here it is again. There were also some good cards from what I understand, like Zeus for example, or Digi Crow for example. So in total, these decks have some great tools that I will probably use in my actual deck going forward, but let's go over both decks. I try to explain first what the comic uses the card for, and second how I would rate the card or engine it creates. Let's start with the Synchro deck, because I played that for most of the duels so far. This deck will be sorted like this, because you need to draw from the top obviously, but I will now sort them in the opposite order so we can talk about them better. So this is in drawing order. You start off with a bunch of vanilla monsters, but I was very happy to see Elemental Hero Sparkman, because I've played a lot of GX Tech Force Evolution and I've played a lot of Elemental Heroes. This gave me great nostalgia. Bunch of vanilla monsters. Also having green Ojama in your opening hand was pretty funny, I have to say. more vanilla monsters. Then you get to stall with Swords of Revealing Light, and we learn in the duel that we can attack while having swords active. Then we can buff our beat sticks with Backup Rider. Afterwards we learn about slip effects and special summoning with Apprentice Piper. Then we learn about traps with Storming Mirror Force. Then we get to stall again with Scapegoat and learn about tokens. So far most of these cards were pretty bad in modern Yu-Gi-Oh! As far as I understand. Then we get to card KD, which feels playable in like slow formats where you don't die when you give up the turn, because you have to give up the turn for drawing. Then we learn about recycling with Warrior Returning Alive, which is also playable in certain decks. Then we get one-time passcode. Looks insane if you don't think about negates or destructions and that it gets summoned in defense position. DD Crow is one of the only hand traps in the entire set and one of the only cards that I will choose going forward in my actual deck, at least in the side deck, maybe even in the main deck. Then you learn a bit about floating with Obsessive Uber Loop, which is a terrible name, I hate to say it. Also, this comic does not teach you terms like recycling, hand traps or floating. As I said before, I'm not even sure that I'm using all of the terms correctly, but I think I am. Now we get to see the ace card of the deck, Visa Starfrost. This is the main deck ace card, but this is basically just a big beat stick that grows bigger when it destroys monsters. Vanadium Fearless is, as I said, the only card that exists twice in this entire set. Every single other card in this two-player set is otherwise unique, and this just completes the engine of summoning Visa Starfrost and then special summoning Vanadium Fearless from your hand. The entire engine is just that you summon both in one turn. Barrier Resonator teaches about card protection and is another hand trap technically, and Fissure is just a scripted hard counter against the opponent board in the scripted duel. But it's quite nice that this is not targeting, as far as I know. I can only read the German effect text, and the German effect text tends to be not as precise as the English effect text. But I think this is non-targeting, which makes it not terrible. Maybe we can even side deck this. Mask is just another recycle, and then you get to the iconic Dark Hole. This is honestly, as I just said, a great card that I will probably side deck, maybe even main deck, just because of when you're going second, you can wipe the entire board if they have no negate. I will probably side deck this until I get like Raigeki or Lightning Storm, and then I would just use Lightning Storm or Raigeki instead. Kunai with Chain is just a meme.
Kunai with Chain! What is this?
The Mask was a nice burn card, Magic Cylinder is iconic, Mage Power is a basic equip card, Möbius is his German name, I don't know how he's called in English. I will probably look this up. This has back row removal on summon, but needs a tribute to summon, and it's not very good because of that. Card Trooper is a nice beat stick that can also set up the graveyard, but it can also lead you to brick if you mill the wrong cards. I have never played Quill Bolt in any of the duels. This can just special summon itself from the grave, but gets banished at the end of the turn. Dark Resonator is pretty useless. Power Frame is an attack negation, and that is quite bad. White Elephant's Gift is pretty bad, and also just a +0 in card advantage. Liberty at Last is a straight up hard counter against the Xyz deck. S tier for this matchup, but C otherwise. Hydrite. I don't know how this is pronounced. Hydrite? Hydrite is just Synchro Fodder. Supply Squad is kind of decent. Galaxy Cyclone is a slower MST that can be used in the graveyard as well. Galaxy Cyclone can destroy 2 cards in theory, but because the first card needs to be a set card and the second one needs to be an open card, this is quite limiting, and I don't think this will be in my deck over MST. This is the second copy of Vanadium Fearless, and back to the front is a worse Call of the Haunted, so I will probably just use Call of the Haunted. This is where the synchro cards begins. Stygian Sergeant is very useful for OTKing since it can attack multiple times, but we had to check in Edo Pro if it can only attack twice or as many times as it could if you could resolve the effect. It is in fact that you can only attack twice, so this is not as useful as I thought. Coral Dragon is okay. One generic destruction is quite nice, and drawing one card when this gets destroyed is also quite nice. The attack points are fine. This is quite an okay card. Rhino Saber is okay, since it can special summon other level 7 monsters when it gets destroyed, but honestly I have not summoned this once in any of the duels. Primeheart is the ace card of the entire deck. It is displayed at the front of the deck, and it has protection when it's summoned using Vanadium cards, which there are only 2 in the entire deck, so I don't know why. Because it can attack multiple times if you use multiple tuners. This can OTK theoretically, but I have never managed to do it. And this can float into Visa Starfrost, into the other ace card when it gets destroyed or banished, which is quite decent. That's it for the synchro cards. Let's put them away. The Xyz deck starts off with some vanilla cards as well, but one of the vanilla monsters is Alternate Art Dark Magician. like one of the 10 alternate arts Dark Magician. And this was very nostalgic, very nice. This will probably ring way more nostalgia bells compared to the Sparkman. And this deck in general is a way bigger nostalgia bait, as you will see shortly. Yellow Jamas, also quite funny. Trade-In is a decent card in decks that have a lot of level 8s, but is kind of misplaced in this deck since this is only one level 8. No Entry is just a stalling trap. Draining Shield is also just for stalling. White Ninja is a decent destruction but very slow since it is a flip monster. 1000 Knives only works with Dark Magician and you only have one in your deck and you can't even special summon Dark Magician in any way, so this goes in horrible tier. Cost down is decent for this deck, but terrible otherwise. Call of the Haunted is a worse monster Reborn. It is at 3 and Reborn is only at 1, so I will maybe use this going forward. Cyber Dragon is also a big nostalgia card, especially for me. I think this is a bigger nostalgia card than Sparkman is. Yeah, you can see that for nostalgia purposes I like this deck way more, but this will get even better. Eldritch is the main deck boss monster, the ace card of this deck. And Eldritch is quite decent. It's definitely better than Visa Starfrost. You can throw Eldritch in the grave with a Spell or Trap, and then with another Spell or Trap you can get him back into your hand and instantly special summon him, and he gains 1000 attack and defense for your turn and your next opponent's turn. This can infinitely float. This is quite nice. I think this card is way stronger than Starfrost. The comic does not teach you that you are allowed to combo this card in one turn. We had to test it in Edo Pro and you can actually combo this in one turn. You can throw it into the grave and then take it back and summon it instantly in one turn. And because this can float infinitely, this is way better than Starfrost. This is a decent card. If the Synchro deck had no shuffle back cards, this would be extremely busted against the Synchro deck and easily the best main deck card in both decks, but the Synchro deck has some hard counters to this card. Skilled Successor is just an attack boost. Crane can summon a rank 3 Xyz monster by itself if you have a level 3 in the grave, which there's only one in the entire deck. So this card is decent, but bad in this deck. Xyz Reborn is better than Call of the Haunted for Xyz monsters specifically, because it's attaching itself to the monster, but otherwise it's useless. Dark Magician Girl is another nostalgia card. This is why I think this is the best nostalgia deck. Dark Magician Girl, and Cyber Dragon is really great for nostalgia. I don't know why the Xyz deck has way better nostalgia than the Synchro deck. Chiron is basic back row removal. It's just a worse MST. Magician of Fate is in a weird spot since the deck does not have many spells. Penguin Soldier is really strong in this duel, especially when you return Synchro monsters from player S with it. MST is obviously strong, especially against player S who has a lot of traps and continuous spells, and I will probably main or side deck this in my new deck. I will think about it at least. Book of Moon is obviously strong and competitively viable as far as I know, so I will at least side deck this as well. Needle Trap was not used in any of the 20 or so duels with these decks except as fodder for example Eldritch. Even the comic acknowledges that this is useless. You search it from the deck to attach to Zeus in the comic. Because it would be useless otherwise in a deck. Gravity X is just an equip spell. Dark Factory is kinda useless even in this deck. Gyrate is just for stalling. Swing of Memories is like Monster Reborn, but you can only use it for finishing off your opponent or for tribute or XC summoning. But we found a nice combo using the Penguin Soldier to give the summoned card back to hand, which avoids the destruction of the swing. Barbaros was not once summoned by tributing 3 cards. We never used that part. We just used it as a 1900 beat stick. Since recording this, I played through the scripted duel again with another friend, and he actually managed to summon Barbaros using 3 tributes, and that was such a hype moment in the duel since I had an established board and he wiped the entire board with this. Burden of the Mighty is a great card. Nein, mir ist alles hingefallen. Das sieht jetzt so scheiße aus. I changed the lighting. This is the first time I'm doing this, so I hope this is fine. Burden of the Mighty is a great hard counter against player S's deck, especially combined with the last main deck monster of player X that I will show shortly. Fighting Spirit is just an attack boost. Gaga Magician is also just nostalgia bait for Zexal viewers, which was only me. No other person that I played with has watched Zexal. But yeah, in general, this is only Xyz fodder. Star Changer is a bad utility for Xyz summoning. Traffic Control is a great hard counter against player S's deck, since player S has a lot of tokens and tends to summon a lot of monsters. Night Beam is MST on steroids, but only for set cards, and since player S uses a lot of continuous spell cards, this got rarely used sadly. Star Drawing is just Xyz fodder. Magical Broker is pretty bad. Fierce Tiger Mongo is the card that I was talking about. This single-handedly won a few of our duels, especially together with Burden of the Mighty. This easily broke fully comboed boards of player S. This card is way too strong for these decks specifically, but in general it's it's okay. And let's continue with the extra deck monsters. The Gusto Emerald is only good because this deck has some useless vanilla monsters. Number 20 is just a beat stick that buffs beat sticks. Kestel has a Book of Moon effect and shuffle into the deck effect on one card, so this is quite strong. Zeus is by far the most expensive card out of all of the 88 cards, and it is also the most busted of them all. For those of you who don't know, you can always, as a quick effect, detach 2 material and then destroy the entire board except for this card. The entire board, back row and front row, monster spells and traps without targeting, and when one of your cards gets destroyed by effect or battle, you can just attach any card from your deck. It doesn't matter if it's hand deck or even extra deck. You can just attach a card here, and attaching cards is obviously strong because of the insane effect. So I get why this is the most expensive card, and this is definitely in my deck going forward if I can get another Xyz monster to summon this one. So this is the current total. In the next video I will use some of these cards and some structure decks to build a deck and maybe even play in some locals. This episode is about building my first deck, testing it with friends, and finally going to my first local. First I will unbox some cards and some accessories, though keep in mind that I recorded this before playing with the starter kit, so the footage is like a month old, and these are literally the first Yu-Gi-Oh cards that I have touched in 1.5 decades. The next most important product is this. This is the Yu-Gi-Oh! Cyber Strike structure deck, in English of course. I've bought this 3 times because I would like to play with cards that are near mint or mint condition. When I was searching for this 2-player starter kit, I was on a website that had 3 structure decks, the 2022 Obelisk and Slifer ones, and this structure deck for 3 euros each. So this was just 3 euros. And 9 for all of them. And that is very, very cheap. Another reason is my favorite deck ever since I was a child was either Elemental Heroes or Cyber Dragon. And when I started playing Yu-Gi-Oh! Master Duel and Duel Links back in this year, I created Cyber Dragon decks for both of these games. So when I was scrolling through the website looking for the 2-player starter kit and I saw that these are for 3 euros each, I had to buy them. I had to buy them. Let's unbox one. I've never unboxed Yu-Gi-Oh cards. I've never had original Yu-Gi-Oh cards, except for those that my cousin gifted to me. Okay, so first we have a playmat. So I have 3 playmats now. These are paper playmats, so not the best quality, but this one could be looking extremely cool. And on the back side, it seems that you have an explanation for all of the engines and then some random ads. And here's the card list. I think I know most of the engines, and I know some of the cards that I like the most are missing, like Chimera Tech Rampage Dragon is one of my favorite fusion cards for this deck, and this is just plain missing. Did I open them from the wrong side? Why is this blocked? Like, it's blocked. I cannot access the deck from this side. Okay, that's it. There's nothing else in the box, just the playmat and the cards. And these are the cards. Right in front, the Cyber Dark Chimera in shiny. This is ultra rare, right? If it looks like this, it's ultra rare. Oh, scan here to learn the basics. I will do that and look at that. It's a beginner's guide. And it seems like something is blocking these cards. Let's open it and look. These are my first Yu-Gi-Oh cards that I ever unbox. How do I open them, man? There's the ripping line. There's the ripping line. But I cannot manage to actually rip it at that line. Oh. These feel nice. These are way smaller than I thought. Poker cards are larger, right? Yeah, they're like way larger. They smell interesting, smell kind of funky. So what is at the point where... Nothing, the card is just a bit bent. Okay, alright. I don't know why the card is a bit bent, but let's see. So, first I would like to... What? That's just Yu-Gi-Oh! Legacy of the Duelist, Link Evolution. This looks like Duel Links, but I think it's another game. So this is just an ad. Scan here to learn more. This is just an ad. And this side is scan here to learn the basics about the deck. Is there another one of these cards? Oh, Yu-Gi-Oh! Duel Links. This time it's Duel Links. Let's see what we have here. We have Cyberdark Chimera. I think this is an ultra rare. Cyberdark Realm seems like an ultra rare to me as well. Cyber Ant Dragon. I barely summoned this one in Master Duel and in Duel Links as well, but looks great. Cyberdark Ant Dragon. I have never summoned this in my life in Master Duel or Duel Links. Cybernetic Horizon. I don't think I know this card. No, I don't think I know this card, but this seems to be ultra rare as well. There were like eight ultra rares in this deck. It said. So this is 5. Cyber Dragon Herz. I don't know why some of these cards have German names, even in English. Like 1, 2, 3 and 4. This is Cyber Dragon Herz or Hertz, I guess you could call him. Yeah, decent card. I've played this. Fusion Development. I don't know this card. Infinite Impermanence. This seems to be ultra rare as well. Okay, and the next card is not ultra rare. I've never played this as well, this card. So let's see how many are this. These are exactly 8. Okay, these are exactly 8 ultra rare cards. Then we have Attachment Cybern. Cyber Dragon. This is nice. Man, this Cyber Dragon looks the best. I think this looks way better than the Black Cyber Dragon. But let's see what's the Attachment Cybern. I've never seen this. I've never seen this card. Cyber Dragon is peak. Cyber Dragon 2. I don't know which of these I played. In Duel Links I think I have all of them in my deck, and in Master Duel I think I have like 1 or 2 of them in my deck. I think I have 2 in my deck, then 3, 4. This should be an Ä. This should have the umlaut dots, and this should be Nächster, which means next in German. Cyber Dragon Core, I played this a lot. This is a great card for summoning the Cyber Dragons from the extra deck. Cyber Pharaohs. You can fusion summon 1 machine monster. Yeah, this one is decent as well. I've played this a lot in Master Duel. Cyber Valley. I've heard a lot about this card, but I've never seen it and I have never played this card. Cyber Phoenix. I think this is trash. Cyber Dark Horn. I know this as well. Cyberdark Edge. No duplicates are in the structure deck, right? I'm not really sure. Cyberdark Heel. I don't know this card. Cyberdark Cannon. I've played this a lot. Cyberdark Claw. I think one of these, Cyberdark Claw or Cyberdark Edge, one of these is pretty trash and the other one is pretty decent. What the hell is Ling Ling? I don't know what. I will read this afterwards. Jizukiro, this Star Destroying Kaiju. This is a Kaiju. I know that the Kaiju cards are or were great counters to other decks, but I've never played a Kaiju and I don't know if anyone plays Kaiju nowadays. Gizmek Orochi, the Serpent Sky Slasher. What the hell is this? I don't know. Gale Dogra. This is just send 1 extra card deck to the graveyard. Cyber Eternal. In your graveyard, you turn it to the extra deck or special summon it. I think this is the planned engine. Cyber Repair Plant. I know this one. I also know Cyber Emergency. This looks great. I love the black dragons with red outline. Cyberlord Fusions is decent as well. Cyberdark Impact. I don't know this card. Cyberdark Inferno. I don't know as well. Future Fusion. I think I know this card from GX Tech Force Evolution, which is the main digital game I played for most of my life. Fusion Tech. I don't know this card, but there's Sparkman on the artwork. Machine Duplication. I've heard about this card, but I've not seen it. Emissary Removal. Double Attack. Control. Okay, I think this card will be pretty trash. This is like if I'm already winning, I'm winning more. Dark Invasion. Yeah, I don't know this card. Cybernetic Revolution. I don't know this card. I don't know most of the traps properly. These are sorted. Monsters, spells, traps. I've just noticed that. I will probably not play most of the traps because traps are pretty trash, I've heard. Call of the Hunted is decent, I guess. It looks great. I don't know what this is. Holy shit, I've never seen this card in my life. Cybernetic Overflow, I've never seen this as well. Camera Attack Overdragon. The Overdragon is okay. Cyber Darkness Dragon, never played this, I guess. 5 Cyber Dark monsters. Cyber Dark Dragon, Cyber Horn Edge and Keel, never played this again. Power Bond is great. I love that Power Bond is in here. And Overload Fusion. That seems to be alright as well. So this is what's in the structure deck. And I have 2 more copies of the structure deck because now I have every card 3 times, which is important for Cyber Dragon and Power Bond. In the last episode, I have shown you that I bought the wrong sleeves, but what I also bought is this. I bought these because on the website where I bought all of this, I got free shipping and a €5 discount if I was above a certain price range. I think it was above 30 euros, so I just bought these because they were on the store and other sleeves were not on the store. I have heard they are terrible quality, but they do look great. I've heard that these are not great quality, but they do feel and look great. And there's one more thing that you need to play, and that is this one, a deck case. The same reasoning why I bought this one is just this was basically free because of the free shipping and discount that I got when I got above the price range. Pretty cheap. This is just cardboard. This is very hard to open somehow. And here is a divider. And that divider looks awesome. In order to build my first deck, I started building my goal deck as if I had access to every card in the world. I iterated over the deck with drawing a random starting hand, seeing how well I can combo from that hand, and then tuning the deck accordingly. I also watched a lot of videos on deck building theory, especially for picking how, what, and how many non-engine cards I should use. However, in this episode I am going to limit myself to the cards I own, so most of that goal deck will be shown in the next episode. But as a teaser, I managed to get level 18 in the September Duelist Cup using my TCG legal goal deck, so without Max C or anything like that. After creating my goal deck, I removed every card that I do not own, so that my deck looked like this. Then I started looking into the cards that I have, and I tried to replace cards from my goal deck that I do not own with kinda similar cards. I then used this deck against a colleague who bought the Slifer and Obelisk structure decks, and I took notes from these duels on what to change. I tuned the deck further by swapping out some cards that are useless most of the time and putting in some stuff like kaijus that are needed for some matchups, specifically this one. So let's talk about the deck I created. First up, there are 3 copies of Cyberdragon. This is the main card of the deck. We can get this into our hand in a lot of different ways, so just 3 copies of that. Next up, we have 3 copies of Cyberdragon Hertz. Mainly the second effect of this card is the one that we are going to use. If this card is sent to the graveyard, which we can do by a few different ways, then we can add 1 other Cyberdragon from the deck or graveyard to our hand. So this can recycle stuff from the graveyard and give us Cyberdragons from the deck. Next up, we have 2 copies of Cyberdragon Nächster. I don't know how you would call that. This card can special summon itself by discarding 1 other monster from my hand, and when it's normal or special summoned, I can special summon from the graveyard 1 machine monster with 2100 attack or defense, which is for example Cyberdragon, and I have a few other targets. So this can for example throw Hertz in the graveyard, then summon itself, and then trigger the Hertz effect, or if I have a Cyberdragon in hand, I can throw away the Cyberdragon and then immediately summon it. Also, what I haven't mentioned yet, Cyberdragon Hertz and Cyberdragon Nächster have the line that they are always treated as Cyberdragon while on field or graveyard, and a few other cards that have that as well. That helps a lot with the extra deck cards. Next up, we have 3 copies of Cyberdragon Core. This is our main starter card. First up, this is also treated as Cyberdragon. Next, if this is normal summoned, then I can add 1 Cyber Spell or Trap from deck to hand. I have a few targets for that. I will talk about that shortly. If this is in the graveyard and I have no monsters on the field, I can special summon 1 Cyberdragon from my deck. The second effect gets rarely used, but the first effect is the starter of most of the combos here. The search effect is very, very strong. Next up, we have 2 copies of Cyberdragon 4. This is also treated as a Cyberdragon. Whenever I normal or special summon any of these monsters that are treated as Cyberdragon, I can also special summon this card. So this just helps get more bodies that are called Cyberdragon on the field. Also, each Cyberdragon on the field that I control gains 500 attack and defense, which is quite nice, but this has anti-synergy with one of the spell cards in the deck, so I really need to think about the sequencing when using this card. Next up is 1 copy of Cyberdragon Chimera. When this card is on the field, I can discard 1 spell or trap to get a power bond from the deck to hand. And if I use that effect, and if I want to fusion summon that turn, then I can banish cards from the graveyard in addition to whatever the fusion spell card says. This is also searchable with Cyberdragon Core, for example, and for example Cyberdragon Nächster can special summon this from the graveyard, and this is just a great card. But because this is really, really searchable, I will show shortly why this is really, really searchable. I only have 1 copy of this. The last engine monster is Cyberpharos. You can special summon this by tributing 1 card on the field, for example a Cyberdragon Hertz. When this is on the field, you can use it as poly. You can use it to fusion summon a monster. This is mainly in the deck as 1 additional copy of Polymerization, and also because it can get me a Cyberdragon if I have Hertz and Pharos in my hand, and because this is a target for Nächster if it's in the grave. That's why this is in the deck, but also only 1 copy because this isn't really that strong. For non-engine, we have 3 copies of the Kaiju Jizukiru. We chose this Kaiju mainly because I already own it, but also because this is a light machine and therefore searchable by a lot of effects that you will see shortly. This is removal because I can tribute 1 monster from my opponent to summon this, so this is mainly just removal. The next non-engine card is from the 2-player starter kit from last episode, and it's DD Crow. DD Crow is a hand trap which just says I can banish 1 card in my opponent's graveyard. This is very conditional but very useful if I manage to use it well. The next 2 non-engine cards are also from the 2-player starter kit. At first we have Eldritch. Eldritch is mainly a fun card, just because I don't have many great cards currently, but this can also remove 1 card on the field, and this can infinitely float from the graveyard and is a big beat stick. I think I will summon this once or twice, so I will put this in the deck. Next up we have Wild Tiger Mongoose. This is also from the starter kit, and this is mainly to hard counter Yubel decks, and besides Yubel this will probably not do a lot, so maybe I should put this in the side deck even. But against Yubel, this can board wipe because every Yubel card has 0 attack, and this specifically says destroy all monsters that have less attack than Mongoose, so this can pretty easily board wipe Yubel boards, I think. I might put this in the side deck just because not everyone will play Yubel, I guess. But it's in the main deck for now. So that's it for the monster cards. For the engine spells, we have 2 copies of Cyber Emergency. Cyber Emergency lets us search 1 light machine monster that cannot be normal summoned or set, or 1 Cyber Dragon monster from deck and add it to the hand. This is sadly only once per turn, that's why I only have 2 copies, because 3 would be too many. But we can search every single one of these engine cards, except for Cyber Dark Chimera. Cyber Dark Chimera is a dark machine monster. But we can search Cyber Dragon, Hertz, Nächster, Core, Fear, and even the Kaiju just with this card. This is a great search, and if I don't already have it in hand, then most of the time when I normal summon Cyber Dragon Core, I will just get this card. Or vice versa, if I have this card but I don't have Core, then I will use this card to get Core most of the time. We have also 2 copies of Cyber Repair Plant. Cyber Repair Plant lets us search a light machine monster and add it from deck to hand if a Cyber Dragon is in my graveyard. This is not a once per turn, but I still only put in 2 copies because this is kind of conditional. I need to have one of the Cyber Dragons in my graveyard first for this to work. But still, this is a great card, so this goes in here. Next up, we have 1 copy of Cyber Dark Realm. When I activate Cyber Dark Realm, I can search 1 Cyber Dark monster and add it from deck to hand, and I will always use this to search Cyber Dark Chimera. And I can then activate Cyber Dark Realm to normal summon 1 Cyber Dark monster, which will be Cyber Dark Chimera, in addition to my regular normal summon. So one combo I often use is normal summon Cyber Dragon Core, get me Cyber Dark Realm, activate Cyber Dark Realm, get me Cyber Dark Chimera, activate Cyber Dark Realm to normal summon Cyber Dark Chimera, and then get Power Bond via Cyber Dark Chimera. So that's why this is a great card, but I still only need 1 copy for this because I only want to search 1 copy. These are all the spell cards that Cyber Dragon Core can search in our deck. Cyber Dragon Core can also search some cards that I have in the side deck, but in the main deck this is only Cyber Emergency, Cyber Repair Plant, and Cyber Dark Realm. Next up, we have 1 copy of Overload Fusion. This can fusion summon 1 dark machine monster from the extra deck by banishing fusion materials from graveyard. So this is basically just if something went wrong and I have a lot of Cyber Dragons in the graveyard, then I can use Overload Fusion to at least fusion summon anything. But because this is very conditional, there's only 1 copy of this in the deck. Continuing with the trend of fusion summoning, we have 3 copies of Power Bond. Power Bond is the main win condition of this deck. With Power Bond, I can fusion summon 1 monster from the fusion deck, 1 machine monster, but all of my fusion monsters are machine monsters, and I will double its original attack, but during the end phase I will take damage equal to the amount of the attack gained. The doubling of the attack is really important, and that's why we have 3 copies of Power Bond. And if you really think about it, we have like 8 or 9 copies of Power Bond because we can search Power Bond with Cyber Dark Chimera, and we can search Chimera with Cyber Dark Realm, and we can search Realm with Cyber Dragon Core, and we can search Core with Cyber Emergency. So like if you really think about it, we have like 9 or 10 or more copies of Power Bond. Next up, we have 2 copies of Fusion Deployment. Fusion Deployment just lets me special summon 1 Cyber Dragon from the deck, but since this is a once per turn, this card is only twice in the deck. Next up, we have Machine Duplication. Machine Duplication lets us target 1 monster with 500 or less attack and then special summon up to 2 monsters from the deck with the same name. If we have Cyber Dragon Hertz, Nächster, or Core on the field, then we can use Machine Duplication to get up to 2 Cyber Dragons from the deck also to the field. But as I said, we can only use this effect if you don't have a Cyber Dragon Fear on the field, because Cyber Dragon Fear boosts the attack of every card on the field by 500. This specifically says a monster with 500 or less attack. So this is the sequencing problem. Cyber Dragon Fear has anti-synergy with Machine Duplication, and I really have to keep in mind that if I have both in hand, then I need to use Machine Duplication before using Cyber Dragon Fear. That's it for all the engine spells. For non-engine, we have 1 copy of Harpy's Feather Duster, which my colleague gifted me, 1 copy of Black Hole from the starter kit, 1 copy of Fissure from the starter kit, 1 copy of MSD from the starter kit, 1 copy of Book of Moon from the starter kit, and 1 Monster Reborn. This was also a gift from my colleague. Thank you a lot. So this is the main deck. The main plan of the deck is to board break. I want to go second always and then break the board of my opponent with Harpy's Feather Duster, Black Hole, Fissure, the Kaijus, Eldritch. I want to break the board of my opponent, and then when their board is broken enough, I want to use Cyber Dragon, Cyber Dragon Core, Cyber Dragon Hertz to gather up enough spell cards and enough Cyber Dragon bodies on the field and on the hand to fusion summon a lot. So let's talk about the extra deck and what cards I want to fusion summon with this. This deck cannot summon many cards that I own, The only cards that I own that I can special summon with this deck is Cyber End Dragon. Cyber End Dragon has 4000 attack, it has to be fusion summoned with 3 Cyber Dragons, and this has piercing damage. So if they have a card with 0 attack or 0 defense, or if they don't have a monster card at all because I have broken the entire field, then if I summon this with Power Bonds, I will OTK them with 1 card. But hopefully I won't end on only this, and I will have some more cards because this is a pretty unrealistic scenario. The next card in my extra deck is 3 copies of Chimera Tech Overdragon. You can special summon this one with 1 Cyber Dragon and at least 1 machine monster, so this is a bit more open. I can even use Cyber Pharaohs or the Kaiju or the Cyber Dark Chimera for this one, and this gains 800 attack and defense for every material used, and this can attack an equal number of times of fusion materials used to special summon this. So if I use 3 materials, this has 2400 attack and can attack 3 times. If I use Power Bond, this has 4800 attack and can attack 3 times. So this is very, very strong and a bit more flexible. Also, this is a dark fusion monster, so I can fusion summon this with Overload Fusion. Next up, from the 2-player starter kit, we have 1 copy of Daigusto Emerald. We can only really summon this one with like 3 or 4 cards with Cyber Dragon 4, Cyber Dark Chimera and Mongu. So I have 4 cards in the entire deck that can be used to overlay to this. And the main appeal of this card is to recycle 3 cards from the graveyard and then draw 1 card. We also have 1 copy of Castel, the same reasoning. I have a legal way to summon these 2, but I don't think this will ever happen in my life. But potentially it could happen, so better have it than not, because I have the space in my extra deck. This card is better than Daigusto Emerald since I can shuffle 1 card on the field back into the deck. So this is great removal that does not trigger any removal effects. And since I have 2 Xyz cards, I can potentially, theoretically, summon Zeus. And Zeus will wipe the board and has a lot of attack. If I manage to summon Zeus once, I will be very happy. And this is the entire extra deck, just because in the entire 2-player starter kit and in all of the structure decks, I have no more extra deck cards that I can legally summon with this deck. For the side deck, I don't have many great cards, and also I only want to side deck for very specific matchups or when going first. If I know I play against Tenpai, for example, and I know they can choose if they want to go first or second, they will probably always go second. In that case, I won't go first, which is very rare. I think Tenpai is the only deck that wants to go second, and I always want to go second, so Tenpai is really the only matchup that I have going first cards for. But at first we have 1 copy of Cyber Dragon Nesta and 1 copy of Cyber Dragon 4, because I only have 2 copies in the deck, and maybe throughout the tournament I feel like I need more copies of that card. And then we also have 1 copy of Penguin Soldier from the starter kit. This is a going first card, so I can just set this card, and when it gets flipped, I can shuffle 2 monsters on the field back into the deck, which is very decent removal. These are all of the monsters that I have in my side deck. Next up we have 3 copies of Cyberload Fusion. This is searchable with Cyber Dragon Core, and this lets me fusion summon by using material from the field or face up banished cards. So this is for very specific matchups for decks that want to banish most of the cards that I own. Then I will side in this card just to be able to profit off of that. Like if I get shifted, if my opponent uses Dimension Shifter on me and all of my cards get banished instead of going to the graveyard, then this profits from a Dimension Shifter. Then we have a few more going first cards. We have 1 copy of Swords of Revealing Light from the starter kit and 1 copy of a Traffic Control from the starter kit as well. With these 2 cards, I just try to skip the battle phase of the second turn, essentially. For traps, we have 3 copies of Infinite Impermanence. I can probably main deck this because I can use it in the first turn when I'm going second, but I really want to go the board breaker approach and not the hand trap approach. Also, only having Imperm doesn't really help me when going second, so this is really for going first. When I'm going first, I can set Imperm, and then I can even profit from the Imperm column when the second turn arrives. Also for going first, we have from the 2-player starter kit Storming Mirror Force, which just shuffles cards back into the deck, which is great removal. Needle Sealing, which removes 4 or more monsters on the field. We have Liberty at Last, which shuffles more cards back into the deck. And then we have Call of the Haunted, which is basically Monster Reborn, but I can only use this if I'm going second. So yeah, that is my deck, my very first deck that I will take to locals. A lot of parts are missing. Almost my entire extra deck is missing. I think in Master Duel I only have Zeus, and besides Zeus, like all of the other 14 cards are just plain missing. But the plan is to go second, break the board of my opponent, and then fusion summon with Power Bond 1, 2, or maybe even 3 of the fusion monsters, and then go and OTK my opponent in turn 2. Okay, so now I'm going to sleeve all of these cards with the Dark Magician sleeves, and then when I'm going to locals, I will take 2 of these playmats, just in case my opponent doesn't have playmats, and I don't have better playmats. I know the paper playmats are kind of a meme, but I don't have better playmats, and I will take this Dark Magician Girl box. It looks great, but it's like out of cardboard and it falls apart and it's very hard to close. I don't really know why, but it's very hard to close. And I will take one 6-sided die with me from somewhere like lying around in the house. The only remaining thing I have to do is go to some actual locals and see how well this goes. To prep for that, I read through the entire rulebook and through some specific stuff like spell speed and how to read problem-solving card text. And I played through a lot of Master Duel. I am very nervous, but what can you do? I think I am ready. And I know that this deck isn't even the full potential of, for example, my Master Duel deck, and even my Master Duel deck is very off meta, so rogue at best, so I know that I will get stomped, but I hope I can learn a lot. So I walked in and asked the store owner behind the counter if there's a Yu-Gi-Oh tournament happening today. He asked me if I have the Neuron app installed and if I can show him my Neuron ID. He put my ID in, asked me to pay 6 euros entry fee and said it will start in about half an hour. I then just stood in the store, walked around shyly, and when I noticed there were bulk boxes on the counter, I asked if I could look through them, and then I just went through the bulk. There was nothing that I needed there, so I did not buy anything, but I heard people saying that multiple players would come to the local but were 15 minutes late, so we started late. At the time when the local should have started, a small Final Fantasy TCG tournament started that was also interesting to watch. In general, it seemed like everyone knew each other and that this was very social, and since I'm shy, this was quite awkward for me. But the store owner and all the players were extremely nice, friendly and forthcoming to me, as you will notice in a bit. The tournament then started with 13 people, and when the first round started, the store owner shouted and we all looked at the Neuron app and it said which table we were at and against who. When we all sat down, he gave everyone one OTS pack each, which I will open at the end of this video. The first round was against a very nice guy that seemed to know the shop owner well. He played a Salomon Grade Kashtira deck and he told me he threw it together a day before. He explained to me every card and he was very open for questions. It was genuinely very nice and helpful. He also used the 2-player playmat and told me to use his instead of the paper playmat that I had with me. Before the game started, he asked high roll, and I asked what this means. He explained that it means we both throw dice and the highest roll decides who goes first. I don't remember which die rolls I won, but since I was the only one wanting to go second, that does not really matter. I went second in every duel this tournament. I could not really record in the card shop, mainly because I'm way too shy to ask for that, but also because, as you can see in this animation, the tables were very small and very close together, so there was literally no room for me to record there. I do not fully remember my enemy's decks, but I do remember most of the interactions, so I will now try to show what happened. In game 1, I start with 2 fusion deployment, 1 Nächster, 1 Kaiju, 1 Power Bond and 1 Mongu. I start off by activating fusion deployment, which got negated. I then Kaiju his Kashtira Fenrir, I think it was, and then normal summon Mongu. He has never seen Mongu in his life and I had to explain the first card that I played. He told me he thinks the card is way too strong for him to never see it, but he then chains SP to banish SP and his Kaiju to save both of them. I attack for 17 and end my turn. His Kaiju and SP return. Next turn he got me to 300 life points without me doing anything. I draw for turn, see that it would not save me and scoop to save time. Game 2, I start with 1 core, 1 book, 1 power bond, 1 machine duplication, 1 kaiju and 1 fear. I start by booking and kaijuing some of his monsters. Then I normal summon core, but he negates the search. I then activate my machine duplication and he goes, yeah, that's fine. Wait! I activate imperm target core. And then I realize my machine duplication was in the imperm column. I have never felt that much physical pain playing this game. I pretty much bricked and he OTK'd me next turn. We talked a bit after the games. He asked me why I started playing Yu-Gi-Oh and so on. I just was way too shy to keep the conversation from dropping, so he soon left to play the new Dragon Ball game with the store owner. I sat there and watched the games next to me until the round was over. Since my duels were over in around 20 minutes, I had to wait 25 minutes for the round to end. In round 2 I got a free win, since we were were an odd number of players, so I had to wait 45 minutes again, which was a very weird feeling. I spent half of the time watching duels and the other half sitting next to the store owner, playing Dragon Ball and asking him stuff about the locals and the Bonanza event and stuff. In general, between rounds and before and after the tournament, everyone was trading, and the store owner seemed like a very aggressive trader that really wanted to trade. In the third round, I was paired against a very nice guy who said he was very new to the physical TCG as well. He played Runic White Forest with a small Manadium engine, and this round was by far the most fun of the tournament. We laughed multiple times, I had many interactions, and it was not so one-sided considering the terrible deck that I brought. Game 1, I do not remember my hand specifically, but I wrote down, he's skill drained, I am fully bricked. But the game went 30 minutes and I remember a highlight. He banished a lot of my cards, and at one point he banished my core from the field. He then could banish one card of his choice from the grave and decided to banish another one of my cores. And when he banished the top cards of my deck, there was another core, and that was extremely funny to me. Then my two proudest moments of the entire tournament happened between games 1 and 2, and the other one happened in game 2. The first moment was, since he banished so many of my cards, I sided in 3 copies of Cyberlord Fusion, and I actually drew one in the second game. The second proudest moment is, before leaving for this local, I thought I should add some random extra deck cards just to have 15 total, so that if my opponent has an effect to banish random cards from my extra deck, the chances of it being an important card will be way lower. And in the second game, he actually went through my extra deck and banished Cyber Darkness Dragon, and I was so proud of myself in that moment to have made that decision. In game 2, I do not remember my hand as well. I just wrote down full brick, and we had a lot of interaction that I do remember. One time I had Naystar on the field and activated Machine Duplication. He chained cards to special summon an extra deck monster, which booked all of my cards on summon, and we resolved this booking effect in the same chain, so my Machine Duplication fizzled out. The player next to us was our judge, since he finished early and was a very good player. After my opponent drew for turn, he noticed the game state and told us that that was illegal, and we had to revert to the game state before he booked all of my cards. We reverted back to the special summon from him, which was kind of awkward, but funny as well, and my Machine Duplication actually resolved properly. Then on summon, in a new chain, he books my board. I tried to fusion summon Cyber End Dragon with my Cyberlord Fusion. The 2 booked Cyber Dragons and debugged Naystar, but the player next to us reminds me that I can't do that, and immediately I noticed that Naystar is not called Cyber Dragon when booked. I apologized and summoned Chimera Tech Overdragon instead. The Overdragon got destroyed before I could attack, but this interaction was still a lot of fun, and I was glad I could finally fusion summon a monster. Next turn, he had 8k damage on board and had 9k life points in main 1 when time was called, so I just told him he won. In round 4, my opponent again was very nice and told me he is an actual judge. Everything he did looked perfect. He never forgot to call a play, a chain, a phase or anything. I felt so intimidated that I started getting nervous and I started dropping cards and stuff. He played Centurion with Horus. In game 1, I comboed pretty well. I used the Kaiju and floated a lot with my Cyber Dragons, but he negated my Overload Fusion and that choked my entire play. In game 2, I had no fusion spell in hand and no real way to get one, so I would call that a brick. He also had a lot of negates on board, so I just set Storming Mirror Force, which got activated but negated, and for game 2 I sided at Liberty at last, which I never drew. All in all, this was a fun round with a lot of interaction, but I got stomped again. I think he actually won the local as well. If you are interested in what decks played at the local, there was one Tempai, one Voiceless Voice, one Salamangreat Kashtira, one Snake Eye 60 card deck that I did not fully understand. There were 2 Runic White Forests, one Centurion Horus, and around half of the players at the tournament played Centurion, apparently. The top 5 players got prizes, the winner got 5 boosters, the second one got 4, and so on. And immediately they opened it at the counter and the store owner was very aggressive with trading and seeing if they pulled some ultis. Here are a few general experiences that I could not fit into any round specifically. For everything in the tournament, like telling who won or lost or seeing all the pairings, we used Neuron. During the tournament, between rounds, the very good player that was our judge in round 3 was talking about my deck choice and trying to help me create a Cyberdark deck that gets 5 negates on board consistently and stuff like that. Apparently this guy and the shop owner as well were playing Cyber Dragon back in the day, so he knows the deck well and he knows the structure deck that I used well. In general, I misplayed a lot of times and I did not say as much as I should have. For example, I had Cyber Dragon Core and Fear multiple times in my hand and I did not know how to build the chain properly. I never called out my phases except ending my turn and starting my turn. turn. I did not specifically say a lot of stuff like which chain links some effects go and stuff like that, so I will work on that. When playing Master Duel, I try to speak out loud or at least whisper all of these things so that I get better at them. In general, this was a lot of fun, even though I was extremely shy. This was a 4-hour experience, including being 30 minutes early and the tournament starting 50 minutes late. I do want to come again a few times, at least with my proper Cyber Dragon deck, so I started ordering staples and missing cards, but that will be shown in the next episode. So let us open the tournament pack. I think you have to rip it here. Oh no, I've ripped it like this. That's not good. Okay, I've ripped it properly. Okay. I'm so scared to break the cards. Okay. I got them. Okay, alright. Let's see. Fire Magician? Fire Sorceress? This seems pretty terrible. Shopina? I don't know this card. I don't think it's good. It doesn't look good. And... oh, a super rare. Okay, I don't really know this card as well, but it's a super rare. It might be good. I don't know. I will put the card market prices of these 3 cards on screen right now. As for me, I will just sleeve them and probably never think about them. But this is nice. This is my first booster. It's fun to open a booster, I think. So yeah, that's it for this episode. The total cost of everything will be displayed on screen now. As I said, for the next episode, I ordered new cards to build the Cyber Dragon deck to a decent level, and when they arrive, I will return to locals. This episode is about buying my first singles, improving my deck, and trying to win my first duel at locals. Before buying singles, I made sure that my deck would be great so that I don't regret spending real money. I started building the deck back in August and continuously improved on the decklist. I did this by playing a lot of Master Duel, and yes, I played without Maxi. When I played Master Duel, I used the exact decklist that I would use at locals, so it had to be legal in the TCG. In the September Duelist Cup, I peaked at level 18. After de-ranking from 18 to 17 4 times, I decided to quit, but I think for my first proper self-made decklist that even excludes Maxi and is perfectly legal in the TCG, this was still quite the achievement. Throughout the months, I continuously tweaked the decklist by changing out a few cards that had no or very little impact in tens or even sometimes hundreds of duels. This is still my only proper deck in Master Duel, and I am duelist level 26. I played so many duels with this deck and I'm still not sick of it. This was the first iteration of my deck. I will give a deck profile later in the video, but for now I will only explain the changes I made throughout the months. Since I did not use my side deck in any meaningful way, we will just ignore everything I have put there and focus on the rest. From the first iteration of the deck to the second, I decided to go the full board breaker approach, since I heard in a few videos that you should most often decide whether to go one way or the other instead of half-arsing both. That means we remove Ash and Bell, and we bump up Clockwork Knight and Fortress Dragon from 1 copy each to 3 copies each. These 2 cards are our strongest board breakers, since the opponent cannot react to the contact fusion, only to the activation of Clockwork Knight and to the summon of a Cyber Dragon card. I also added 3 Kaijus, mainly because my colleague from the last episode played Obelisk and he is very hard to out without Kaijus. But Kaijus are very strong board breakers anyway and come in handy very often. Jizukiro specifically is a light machine monster and therefore has a lot of synergies with Fortress Dragon, Repair Plant, Galaxy Soldier and a few other cards. In addition to these changes, I removed Instant Fusion and Eternity Dragon because I never used them. I also added Almirage. This Link 1 helps set up plays if I have a mediocre hand, and I will explain what plays these are in the deck profile later in the video. Going towards the third iteration of the deck, I focused on more consistency. I swapped out 1 copy of Lightning Storm for Raigeki, since Lightning Storm is a once per turn and it was very annoying to draw multiple copies. I added Talents as a general going second consistency card. I removed Prosperity since it had too much drawback for too little benefits. I pushed both Repair Plant and Emergency from 1 copy each to 2 copies each to get more consistency, even though both are once per turns, just because they can be great starters. In addition, I removed 1 copy of Hertz since I drew multiple way too often, which was kind of annoying. I removed Pharos since I barely used it, and I replaced Nightmare Unicorn with SP since I barely used Unicorn, but SP can help if I'm going first or if I cannot OTK my opponent. Last but not least, I replaced Imperm with Called By since Imperm was just a hand trap going second, and called by is protection going second. Going towards the fourth and for now final iteration, I focused on mitigating bricking. I achieved this by bumping Nächster Herz and Emergency to 3 copies, even though drawing multiple of them is kinda ass, but not drawing them is way worse. To make room for them, I removed Overload Fusion since it is not searchable and was rarely used. I removed Fusion Deployment since the restriction is terrible and I barely used the card because of the restriction. And I removed Ref System since the card looked good on paper, but just does not do anything useful and never helped me win a duel. With this final deck list, I managed to go into the second stage of the December Duelist Cup, though I did not have enough free time to grind as much as I wanted. My goal for the next Duelist Cup will be to place in the top 20k. Also, this time I used Maxi.
Oh, brother, this guy stinks!
What happened was that I realized that Master Duel is truly a different format. This realization struck me when this comment under the last episode pointed out that there are rulings that only work in the TCG. For example, I can chain block Cyber Dragon Core with Cyber Dragon 4 in this instance, but not here. Why, you might ask? Because I activated TCG Seagog rulings. Because of this and a lot of YouTube and Twitch content, I am now convinced that Master Duel is a completely different format compared to the TCG and has to be treated as such. In the future, I will practice my TCG decks on the Forbidden website or EdoPro instead of Master Duel, and when I want to climb the ladder or Duelist Cup in Master Duel, I will tweak my deck according to that format and meta. Speaking of the TCG, I bought some cards. Ordering on Card Market is really exhausting since you can optimize so much of the price by combining orders so that you pay less shipping costs. The shopping wizard does a great job most of the time, but the entire time I felt like I was wasting money I could have saved if I approached all of this more smartly. I remembered that I am a software developer and started writing a shopping wizard just to realize why Card Market's own shopping wizard is not perfect. After hearing about the Quarter Century Bonanza set, I stopped and just waited until it got released in hopes of it reprinting Clockwork Knight, which was the most expensive card from the core deck. And it actually got reprinted, along with SP and a few other cards, which made me and my wallet extremely happy. After letting the price drop a few days, I used the shopping wizard as a base and tried to optimize everything a bit more, which just resulted in the same total price, but cards with higher rarity and better condition, which is an absolute win in my book. I ordered them, waited between 1 and 2 weeks until they arrived, and I was not ready for what I received. So this first shipment is from a private seller that used this really stiff cardboard cards to protect the cards, and also put in 2 random worthless cards that I did not order in there to further protect this super rare Lightning Storm that I ordered. This next shipment is from a power seller who packaged the ordered cards in a custom booster, which was very fun. They also included this really high quality token or field center that I use as my primary token now. It is ironic that all of this just protected my 2 copies of Cyber Dragon Nova in common rarity. This next shipment from a professional seller was just wrapped in a piece of paper, which seems not so strong, but protected the cards fine, I guess. In there were 2 copies of Ultra Rare Chimera Tech Mega Fleet Dragon, 2 copies of Ultra Rare Cyber Dragon Infinity, which looks sick by the way, and 2 copies of Ultra Rare Chimera Tech Rampage Dragon. Another professional brought me this shipment wrapped in a thin piece of paper, but he also used a magic card to further protect the cards, so this seems like fine protection. In here are 3 copies of Ultra Rare Cyber Ref System, which were displayed as excellent instead of near mint, but they look pretty much minty to me, and 1 copy of Salomon Grade Almirage in rare. The next shipment, again by a professional and again wrapped in a regular piece of paper, came with a 1-piece card this time. In there is a super rare Called by the Grave, 2 copies of Ultra Rare Nibiru, 1 copy of Ultra Rare Triple Tactics Talents, and 3 copies of Ultra Rare Galaxy Soldier. I noticed that at least one of the Galaxy Soldiers had pretty noticeable scratches on the artwork, even though this card is marked as near mint. This was a small bummer, but I do not really care. But there are probably a lot of people that do care and would be pretty angered by this. This shipment from a professional was shipped in a Smart Guard protector, which was probably the best protection out of all the shipments. In there is a common Cyber Dragon Sieger and a common Regeki. Last but not least, we have another professional, again with a Smart Guard protector. I love to see it. In there are 3 copies of Ultra Rare Clockwork Knight, which look awesome. 1 copy of Ultra Rare SP Little Knight, which looks awesome as well. 3 copies of Quarter Century Secret Rare Chimera Tech Fortress Dragon, which I love. and an ultra rare Foolish Burial. For most cards I pick the highest or to me coolest looking rarity if it doesn't increase the price by too much. Sometimes I pick the common to save on shipping cost even though the card has the same price and a higher rarity, and for some reason Fortress Dragon is the only card where Quarter Century Secret Rare fits this restriction. I also ordered some new accessories, like this. This is a Cyber Dragon Infinity playmat. I heard some people at the locals say that they bought their playmats on AliExpress, and when you create a new account on AliExpress you get a 70% discount on whatever you buy. So I bought this for right around €5, which is a great price for a proper playmat that doesn't even feel terrible. What I also bought was this Dragon Shield purple matte sleeves. I heard these are very good, so I wanted to try them, and since I like the inner sleeves from Dragon Shield, I thought I might try these. I thought about buying the soul sleeves or these, and maybe I will buy the soul sleeves in the future just to compare them, but for now we have these. And I haven't even opened them. I don't know how they feel yet. They are purple on the inside as well, but they are smooth on the inside. And I've heard that the soul sleeves are matte on the inside as well. What I also bought was this, a proper deck box. The Dark Magician play box is horrendous. First of all, the quality is terrible. It's very hard to open the box, like you have to apply a lot of pressure to open it fully. And when you apply this lot of pressure, it's like awkward. It's very awkward to do anything. Also, these are 40 cards in the main, 15 in the extra and 15 in the side deck. And look how crowded this is. It was so hard to take cards in and out of. This is way too small. And imagine me having more than 40 cards in the deck. This would be terrible. I'm glad I'm retiring this box, even though it looks nice. But yeah, some of the extra deck cards I started sleeving in some Dark Magician Girl sleeves because I want to continue using them. So let's try sleeving one Rega Key. Still very hard to get them in here. It's a very tight fit, even with Dragon Shield sleeves and Dragon Shield inner sleeves. It's still a very tight fit. I was struggling to put these in for like 5 minutes, and they are very tight. Like, they are so tight that I'm scared of breaking the sleeve. They are very tight. Yeah, I'm kind of disappointed with this because I thought the inner sleeves would be perfectly fitting with the regular sleeves. Yeah, that works perfectly. For that, it's a very perfect fit. Actually a perfect fit. I'm thinking about using these sealable inner sleeves only for storage and using over sleeves for double sleeving, because these inner sleeves really do not fit with other sleeves, at least the sealable ones. Maybe the not sealable inner sleeves would be better in this case, but the sealable inner sleeves make this card like a few millimeters wider and also a bit thicker, and both of these combined make it really hard to sleeve these cards. Before I re-sleeve these cards, I have something else to show. As you remember, last month was Christmas, and I also got a few gifts that I will not count towards the price total. One of these gifts is this. You've already seen this in the last episode, but I've got a very clean playmat that shows like every zone in a clean way. These are some silica gel pads. This just dries up any cards. This leaves off any moisture, and I will put one of this in my deck box, and wherever I store cards I will put 1 or 2 of these in there just so there's no moisture in where I store cards. Speaking of storage, I also got this as a gift. This is a bulk storage box. This box is way overpriced and doesn't even hold a lot of cards, but since this one will go in a shelf and will be displayed to people who run past it, to my guests, this will look like way better than the cardboard boxes. This was also a gift, these dices. The last gift that I got on Christmas was this. This is a huge box. This is called a deck suitcase, and this has a space for a playmat, then for some deck boxes, like multiple deck boxes, and here you can store like some tokens or spare cards, and here is a small little shelf for the dice that I chose. The deck box that I bought just slots in here perfectly. This was the gifts. I got a lot of gifts, a lot of Yu-Gi-Oh gifts. This deck coffer was the thing that I wished for the most. I can bring everything that I need for a tournament in this box, and this is everything that I need to carry. I don't need a bag, I don't need a backpack. That was the thing that I wished the most for Christmas. Yeah, so now I will sleeve up the cards and fill my suitcase with everything, so great. This is always the most fun part of every episode. I just noticed that I bought 3 copies of Ref System, and I threw Ref System out of my deck. So yeah, I bought these 3 copies for no reason at all, but they were quite cheap, so I don't care. Sadly, I ordered the cards before I tweaked the decklist during the December Duelist Cup. But that does not matter, since every tweak I did there was coincidentally possible with all the cards that I own at this moment. In this deck we have 3 copies of OG Cyber Dragon, Core, Hertz and Nesta. I will not explain cards or combos that I already explained last episode, so we just move on. We have 1 copy of Chimera, and then we have our first new addition, 3 copies of Galaxy Soldier. Galaxy Soldier lets us discard a light monster to special summon itself, and it can add another Galaxy card from deck to hand once per turn when summoned. I will show off a nice combo with that card later. Next up we have 3 copies of the Kaiju Jizukiru. Great type and attribute for Galaxy Soldier, for example. 2 copies of Nibiru. This card lets us break the opponent's board in their turn by destroying the entire board once the opponent summoned 5 or more times in one turn. Also, its light attribute synergizes with Galaxy Soldier, as does every other monster in this deck except for Chimera. For spells, we start with 3 copies of Cyber Emergency and 2 copies of Cyber Repair Plant. I bumped up the count of these 2 because I needed more starters. 1 copy of Cyberlord Fusion to have a searchable fusion spell, 1 copy of Cyberduck Realm and Power Bond, 2 copies of Machine Duplication is the best ratio I find of drawing it often but not bricking with multiples. 1 copy of Foolish Burial as a pretty bad but unique starter. 3 copies of Clockwork Knight, not as a floodgate but as a board breaker, as I will show in a bit. 1 copy of Feather Duster, 1 copy of Regeki and 1 copy of Lightning Storm, which can emulate either of the previous 2. 1 copy of Triple Tactics Talent to mostly either draw 2 or remove a hand trap from the opponent's hand. Lastly, 1 copy of Called By to counter hand traps. In the extra deck we have 2 copies of Rampage Dragon. This can destroy as many spells or traps on field as were used as fusion material when summoned, and also mill Cyber Dragon cards to attack up to 3 times per battle phase. We will use this to OTK, especially when summoned with Power Bond, but this can also help to break the board and extend combos. Mega Fleet Dragon can remove monsters from the extra monster zones without the opponent being able to react to that, similar to a Kaido summon. Fortress Dragon can do a similar form of removal, but with any machine monsters on the field, which synergizes insanely well with Clockwork Knight. Next up, we have 2 copies of Cyber Dragon Nova, which lets us summon a Cyber Dragon from grave, which will most of the time be one of the materials used. Besides that, I only used this as an intermediate step towards Cyber Dragon Infinity at 2 copies. This is my second boss monster besides Rampage Dragon. This can, once per turn, be summoned with just Nova as material, hence why we are trying to summon Nova. Infinity can attach 1 attack position monster on field to itself as material, which is one of the strongest forms of removal. In addition, it has 1 Omni Negate and Destruction per turn. Also, it gains attack per material. This is our only hope when going first or when going into turn 3, and secures the OTK when summoned alongside Rampage Dragon. For our turn 3 and beyond grind game, we also have Zeus, but to be honest, I have barely summoned Zeus in this deck, maybe a handful of times in 1,000 duels. Next up we have Salamangreat Almirage, which can help us start or extend a combo, because it can place a Hertz or Cyber Dragon monster in general into the graveyard that was normal summoned to the field. The protection effect of Almirage comes up rarely, but more often than Zeus. Next up, 1 copy of Cyber Dragon Sieger. This can give a monster on field 2100 attack as a quick effect and removes battle damage with itself, which comes in handy for punching over big walls or in turn 3 and beyond. Also, this card can bridge into Rampage Dragon if you don't have a nice hand, which I will show shortly. Lastly, 1 copy of SP Little Knight for going first or turn 3 and beyond grinds. This can banish itself and another monster on field for the rest of the turn every turn. The side deck looks very familiar since I barely spent any money on it. First, 1 copy of Digi Crow as a very specific hand trap, 2 more copies of Cyberlord Fusion against decks that banish my cards like Kashtira or Runic, a bunch of board breakers if I need to go all in on board breakers, then 1 copy of Monster Reborn, but honestly I don't know what for, Swords of Revealing Light and a traffic control for going first and trying to survive turn 2. Next up, 3 copies of Imperm, which a lot of people last episode wanted me to put inside of my main deck, but I want to focus on breaking an established board, and therefore I will only use this card when being forced to go first to try and survive turn 2. Lastly, we have 2 traps that are also trying to help me go through turn 2. So this is the deck. The game plan is to sit through the entire unskippable cutscene and let my opponent have fun, just to then remove their entire board and kill them in turn 2. So let's show a few of the strongest combos. For 2-card combos we have the following. 1 Hertz and 1 Galaxy Soldier is our strongest 2-card combo. Activate Galaxy Soldier, discard Hertz, special Soldier. Activate Hertz and Soldier, order depends on the board and the rest of the hand. Add 1 Cyber Dragon and 1 Galaxy Soldier, activate Soldier, discard Cyber Dragon, special Soldier. Overlay for Nova, detach to special Cyber Dragon, overlay for Infinity. Infinity was our 5th summon here, so we played around Nibiru, and we still have our normal summon left. This combo is very weak against Ash, Imperm or Vader though, if you do not have anything else in hand to extend further. You might skip the Nova detach to summon Cyber Dragon in order to play around Negates or Nibiru or some particular board states. Next up we have Core plus any spell card in hand, plus any Cyber Dragon card in either hand, field or graveyard. You could play this as a 2 2-card combo, which I will show as well, but it is very awkward and most of the time you will have another Cyber Dragon in hand, field or graveyard to do this combo with. Normal core, mandatory effect to search realm, activate realm, search chimera, activate realm to extra normal chimera, activate chimera to discard your spell and add power bond, activate power bond to summon Rampage Dragon using core and your other Cyber Dragon. Rampage Dragon can now destroy up to 2 spell cards on the field, and you can extend by milling other Cyber Dragon cards such as Hertz and continue your combo or just OTK your opponent. This combo is very flexible since core can add a lot of spells if you have realm, chimera or power bond already in hand, but this combo dies to 1 Ash at pretty much every point and to Veiler and Imperm at many points. You can also get to core via a lot of spells, so the starting state is fairly consistent to get to. You can play this with just core and a spell by doing the exact same steps, but when you got power bond, you can link off core and chimera for Sieger and use Sieger and core as material for Rampage Dragon. This is kinda awkward and I never really used that 2-card combo, but this is an option if you don't have the 3-card combo available. An example God combo could be achieved with Hertz, Galaxy Soldier, core and a random spell. You could go through the entire Infinity combo and then go through the entire Rampage Dragon combo and use the Hertz Engrave as material to create the God board and still have 2 cards left in hand. From here, if you cannot OTK your opponent, you can still in main 2 extend into, for example, SP or Almiraj or a Sieger. And the 2 cards you will have left in the hand if you go second, you can use to break the board before beginning the combo, for example. The evening before the local, I uploaded my deck list from Edo Pro to the official Konami website using this browser extension. This way the deck is also in the Neuron app. I then pre-registered to the local using the deck I just uploaded. This is completely optional and I think I was the only one doing this, but I felt like I wanted to practice for big tournaments. So the next day, 2 minutes before the local should have started, I entered the card shop, determined that I win at least a single duel today. I have registered for the Yu-Gi-Oh! Local. Are you Eric? Yes, 6 euros please. And the way he said that and the way he smiled signals to me that I was the only one pre-registering. I waited a few minutes until the round started and looked around if I recognized anyone. I did not recognize anyone. Not a single person from last time was there, I think. So, round 1 started, the owner gave everyone an OTS pack, we high rolled with my dice and began. My opponent this round was a very nice guy playing pure Kashtira. First game I go second and draw Nip, Repair Plant, Clockwork Knight, Hertz, Galaxy Soldier and Chimera. I activate Clockwork Knight first and he activated Cosmic Cyclone to banish it. That was a bummer, I would have wiped the entire board with that. I activate Galaxy Soldier, discard Hertz, grab another Galaxy Soldier and a Sidra. Activate second Galaxy Soldier, discard Nip because I thought keeping my Sidra in hand would help me later somehow. I make Nova, activate Nova, realize that I still have my Sidra in hand and not engrave, question all my life choices, summon Hertz instead. I make Infinity, I link Hertz away for Almiraj, activate Repair Plant to get core, normal core, mandatory core to get Realm, activate Realm to normal Chimera, and at that point I realized I have no spell in hand to activate the Chimera effect and now I am screwed. To be fair, Rampage Dragon would not have helped either. I would have just destroyed the field spell and the continuous spell and Ogre would have still negated everything and would have had more attack somehow. Anyway, I activate Infinity, suck up Fenrir, link core and Chimera away for Sieger and end my turn. Next turn he steals Infinity and I am dead. For game 2 I sided in 2 Cyberlord Fusions for 2 copies of Nesta. I went second again and drew 2 copies of Repair Plant, Galaxy Soldier, Called By and Cyberlord Fusion. All of these cards are not usable. At the start of the turn I draw Talents and think maybe I can trigger the draw 2 somehow. In the standby phase he activates Shangri-La and special summons something and I ask whether or not this was in the main phase, to which he says no, standby. Talents is not live, which was an insane call out. If you would have my hand in Master Duel you would see that none of the cards are glowing. This is very sad. I set 2 and pass, next turn he Cosmic Cyclones Called By and then vanishes the top 3 cards of my deck and this could save my ass since I still have Cyberlord Fusion set. The cards were Hertz, a Kaiju, come on, one more Cyber Dragon monster. Repair Plant. Unlucky, I lose. Round 2, my opponent, again very nice guy, put his deck box on the table and it says World Championship Qualifier 2023. So I was like, huh. He played pure Ryzel by the way. Game 1 I draw Hertz, 2 copies of Nesta, Talents, Power Bond, Emergency and Sidra. I activate Nesta, discard Sidra, activate Nesta on Summon, which got negated. I activate Talents to draw 2 cards. I normal Hertz, link it away for Almiraj, activate Hertz Engrave to add Sidra from deck. I activate Power Bond, summon Rampage Dragon, which got fully negated. I have normal play and pass turn. Don't you have SP? I do, but it won't help. It's the better play, you should do it. We go back, I do it and lose anyway. Yeah, but it was still the better play. For game 2, I sided in one dark hole for one Nesta. I drew my 1-off power bot again. Nesta, Hertz, Repair Plant, Sidra. In his first turn, he summons an Xyz monster and hovers it over the extra monster zone for a few seconds before putting it in a regular monster zone. After the duel, I told him that this was almost a very big mistake, and he said that he vaguely remembered that he should not do it against Cyber Dragon, and that's why he finally decided against it. He summons Beguska and passes turn. Beguska, for everyone who doesn't know, negates every effect on field and puts cards into defense position. So I think about what I can even do against that, and only thought about Infinity, maybe SP and pass. Okay, before I let the game continue, you just have to bear with me. My notes don't say which cards I had in hand except for the first 4, and I don't remember what the other cards were. And I don't know how I accomplished what I wrote in my notes with the 4 cards I had and 2 unknown cards. That isn't possible at all. So you have to bear with me. I just put in 2 Pot of Greeds here just to accomplish what I put in my notes. I don't remember what I did, man. I don't know, man. So I make this very awkward combo line to get Infinity, and halfway through the combo I remember that I can get Jizukiro with Repair Plant. So I link Hertz and Nesta away for SP and I grab a Sidra with Hertz. I then activate Repair Plant, go through my deck and say I add this Kaiju. He goes, wow, why did you not do that sooner? Because I did not think of it. I remove Beguska, activate Power Bond to summon Rampage Dragon, pop his field spell, mill 2 with Rampage Dragon, and in the battle phase I attack all of his cards, so he has 3100 life points left. Next turn I died. After the games I thought about what I could have done if I added Kaiju earlier or played differently in general. I could have removed the Kaiju with Fortress Dragon if I had Sidra left on field, which would have made it so that I can kill him with Rampage Dragon. I spoke to him, explained everything, and he confirms that he had nothing to respond to that and would have died that way. We chat a bit and he tells me he will go to the regional happening the next day. I assume it was the Montabaur regionals, and that he will need to borrow the Fiendsmith engine from a friend for that. So I wish him good luck and go towards my third opponent. Round 3 was against a new player that had a water pile that consisted of mostly random one-offs. He told me he was there for a second time and that he has more decks like Exodia and stuff. Well, the duels were trivial, so I do not want to talk too much about this round. I felt bad, but after winning 2 duels he asked me if we could duel for fun until the round ends, and so we did. A few duels were kinda grindy since I only managed to get Infinity on board and he always said 1 and passed, so I had no way of killing him, which was kinda funny. So yeah, I felt bad winning every single duel, but he said afterwards that he had a lot of fun and knew his deck would not be that strong. Round 4 was the most intense round. My opponent sits down, looks at me and says, oh, I'm playing against Cyber Dragon now. Game 1 he wins the dice roll and chooses to go first, which was a weird choice in my opinion. I drew Nip, Clockwork Knight, Core, Nesta, Repair Plant and Duster. After he played his first card and I see a hero, I look at his hero deck box and say, I could have known you play heroes. I let him combo and before he ends his turn, I nip the board. He still manages to get a few cards on board before he ends his turn. In my main phase I ask him what his cards do and he says that he has 2 beat sticks and 1 card that has the effect that when I add a card from deck to hand, he can banish 1 random card from my hand once per turn. I say alright and think to myself that I want to have Infinity on board before activating Clockwork Knight so that I can protect it to wipe his board. I begin my turn by activating Cyber Dragon Core, adding Cyber Dark Realm. He goes, alright, now I activate the effect of banishing a random card from your hand. Oh. How the hell did I forget that in 5 seconds? I think to myself, okay, he has a 1 in 5 chance to get Clockwork Knight. I just shuffle my cards and he will simply pick a different card. He then picks 1 card, puts it in my banish zone and says, that's Clockwork Knight. Oh, I think that might have been important. And I go, oh wow, this is bad. This is very, very bad. So I scramble to make a very weird and very weak board and lose the duel. Game 2 I went second and drew Nip again. I nipped him before he ended his main phase and he insta-scoops. I had no real end board there and would have died, and since we already took over 20 minutes for the first duel, I did not want the last duel to go to time. For game 3 I cannot decide whether or not to side for going first or second, and I even say out loud, I really do not know if you are going to send me first or second. My thought process was, heroes can go first or second. In the first duel he went first on purpose even though he knew I was playing Cyber Dragon, and he even won that duel. I think he will go first again. He went second. My hand was Repair Plant, Kaiju, 2 Cyber Dragons and Nibiru. He looks at his cards, at his extra deck, exclaims, this time I play around Nibiru. Meanwhile I look at my cards and think, none of these would glow in Master Duel. I interrupt his chatting and just say, pass. What? I sit there nodding. What? You sure? Okay. He goes through his combo, sometime in between I pick up my cards and look at them and he says, oh, Are you going to fire it now? And I just put him back down. At the end of the main phase, I activate Nip. He barely manages to get enough damage on board to kill me, and I scoop. Afterwards, I showed him my hand and told him that I could not activate or summon a single card out of that, but the crackback in turn 3 would have been quite decent depending on my draw. If I sided for going first, I would have sided in a few traps that would have been quite probable to draw. That all would have helped in that game, but what can you do? My reasoning was sound, but still wrong. I misplayed hard in game 1 and would have won that one easily, and the third game was quite unlucky. In the end, I went 1-4 and placed 8th out of 10. It was a lot of fun and way more fun than last time. My deck was actually pretty viable. Without misplays, I could have won half of the duels. It felt great knowing that the deck is not the problem, except for the very last duel, but that I am just bad. After each round, and especially after the tournament, I was chatting with the players. I was way more confident and way less shy compared to last time. I even started befriending some of the players, like wishing the Rising player good luck again before leaving the card shop, or talking to the hero player who went 5th that he will probably get a prize, and later asking, "And did you get something?" And him looking so happy saying, "Yeah, I got 2 packs." In terms of playing and deck building, I played properly this time, in the sense of exclaiming every phase and chain link and target and everything out loud. I did not make any illegal play as far as I know as well. Siding was meh. Most of the time I sided in Cyberlord Fusion, or I did not side in anything, which was not a lot. In general, I need more board breakers in some matchups and better going first cards for going first. I misplayed a few times hugely, which could probably have been mitigated by me playing a bit more, because over the holidays I did not play a lot, and I think I have not opened Master Duel for almost 2 weeks leading up to the tournament, so I was a bit rusty, which did not really help. So yeah, let's finally look at the OTS pack. Thor, Loki, okay, interesting, and a token. A bomb token. So this video series probably ends here. First of all, I kinda now know Yu-Gi-Oh! Yeah, I could progress to like try to win locals and then maybe go to a regional YCS and see what happens there. That is way more than I would like to do. I'm just playing casually, this is a hobby. I'm not really that competitive, I don't want to spend more money on the game, so I think the journey ends right here. Another thing is, creating these videos was a lot of effort and a lot of annoying and not fulfilling effort, because I did not film the duels. I just had to take notes after the rounds, and because I don't want to be rude, I finished a round, talked to my opponent, and then when the conversation naturally died out, then I would take out my phone and started writing notes about all of the 2 or 3 games that we played that round. Yeah, that has some issues. You have seen that my notes will be missing a lot of information about my own hand and my own plays, which would be crucial to know to recreate them in a simulator. But more importantly, I don't write down any of the cards that my opponent had, except for vague stuff like my opponent had Boguska and maybe 2 other Xyz monsters, or my opponent had 1 Ryzel Xyz monster, the field spell and the continuous spell or something like that. And I'm sitting there like, okay, what is the field spell, what is the trap, and which Ryzel monster did he have? It is very, very difficult to recreate these duels, even roughly, like so that they are similar from my point of view. Even that is really, really difficult. So yeah, you will see in the last video, but especially in this video, that my opponent has like really random cards, stops their plays randomly with 3 or 4 cards in hand, don't use a lot of negates that they have on board, just because I don't know how I would play around that, because that's probably not the card they had in the actual game, but it's just a very fitting card for what happened in my notes. And the worst thing that happened was this Ryzel duel in the second round, the second duel. What I have written down is this: I have these 4 cards in hand and 2 unknown cards, and after kaijuing the Boguska, I do manage to get to infinity, which gets Solemn Striked, and that's how he gets to 4000 life points, because I wrote down, after attacking the kaiju and the other 2 Xyz monsters in defense mode, he is on 3100 life points left. So that all makes sense. Like, I know that the notes were right because I remember it was 3100 life points. I remember attacking the kaiju and remembering I needed to have Fortress Dragon. And yeah, I remember bits and pieces of it, but like with these 4 cards in my starting hand that I wrote down and 2 unknowns, it is not possible to go for SP like I did in my notes, then go to Infinity, which gets Solemn Striked, then have the board state that I wrote down in my notes with 1 Cyber Dragon on field, SP on field, and 1 Cyber Dragon in hand, and then go to Rampage Dragon. Like, how did I do that? Like what? I must have cheated accidentally and not wrote it down, or I misremembered something, maybe the cards in my hand, and didn't write that down either. Even with talents draw 2, this wouldn't be enough. Like, I really had to give myself 2 pot of greeds to accomplish what I wrote down, and I don't remember how I did that. And stuff like that makes it really hard to recreate these duels. Not mentioning that recreating the duels in the first place takes a lot of effort and a lot of time. Because my notes are so sparse and vague, I will just sit around and theory craft, okay, how do I get to this checkpoint and this checkpoint and this checkpoint? What deck could my opponent have had? Because I don't know, Ryzeal decks. I just have to grab one online deck and hope that my opponent's deck was kind of similar, and then read around some key cards, like some extra deck cards, and I just have to hope that I can play everything out with the cards that I can read and that I know. And then I will theory craft, okay, what does my opponent have to do to get this end board? Like, it takes a lot of time and effort. And for that Ryzeal game that was impossible, I was sitting there for like 8 or 9 hours just thinking about how did I manage to do that. This part of the video takes by far the longest, is really annoying to do, and I don't know how I would do that differently without just recording the duels outright. But recording the duels outright has a few disadvantages. First of all, I need to get permission from everyone that I record with, because I'm in Germany and there are data protection laws, so that, yeah, there isn't really a good way to do it for me, in my opinion. There isn't really a good way to do it. It's fitting that I feel like this series has come to an end right here, and I will not continue this series. I will do more Yu-Gi-Oh content. I have some videos in mind, some videos planned out, started scripting some videos. I will do some different content. I have a few Tekken 8 videos in mind and scripted out. I have one Path of Exile video in the making, but this specific series, Yu-Gi-Oh Beginning, will end with this episode. Thank you for the awesome feedback I got for the first 2 episodes, and I hope you stick around for the other Yu-Gi-Oh videos at least. Maybe I can even get you interested in the Tekken and Path of Exile and other videos that I will do. And I'm very happy that I've completed this video. I was sitting on this video for almost a year. I'm just very happy that I finished this video. This video was so exhausting to do. But yeah, thanks for watching. I hope I will see you in the next video, and bye. This with source of revealing, source of revealing, In addition to the cards, I bought sleeves, and I will not count the first pack of sleeves. And I will not count the first pack of sleeves that I bought. Holy shit. Next up is 1 copy of Cyber Dragon. In the extra deck, holy moly. Infinity can attach 1 attack position monster on field to itself as fusion material. Was? What? What the hell did I write? Infinity can add 1 attack position monster on field to itself as fusion material? What? Infinity can attack. Okay. Swords of Revealing Light and a traffic control for going first and trying to survive until turn 2 Alter, holy. Phew.